waves, right? These are pension funds that are buying MicroStrategy. I think we just saw the state of Florida bought $86 million worth of MicroStrategy in their last filing. It's just a different world that we live in. And I think everybody's recognizing that the Titanic is starting to crash. And the only life raft that there is available, it's not bonds, right? Scott Bessent, one of the best manipulators, traders, arbitragers in the world, can't even get the bond market to cooperate with his plan. That is probably the only black swan that people just aren't looking at right now, is the $9.2 trillion in debt that the United States has to refinance. But, when you look at a guy like, if Scott Bessent can't manipulate the bond market, then who can? Mm-hmm. When you look at stocks, right? What are the real growth drivers? Like the AI story is kind of already baked into earnings. It's already baked into valuations. It's already baked into that amount of gold or gold getting to that level doesn't move the needle. And so when you think about Bitcoin going from a $2 trillion asset class to $20 trillion, it's literally, where's the rest of this capital going to flow right now? Where are you going to put that next $1 billion or $1 trillion? I think it's Bitcoin. I think it's all bullish. So
you hit so many things right there. It's true. It's unbelievable. But expected from you. You do a ton of content over the years. You've talked to a ton of people, employers, businesses you run, stuff like that. You're always, talking to people. And what's the common thread you see between the people who understand Bitcoin and those who don't?
One of the most hopeful things that I see between people that are into Bitcoin and people who aren't into Bitcoin, and this would probably be related to people who are in, our stage of life or our age range, is the sense of like hope and like family and within people that are in Bitcoin that I don't believe that the rest of the world knows or understands. And I can see people just on a rat race. They're on the hamster wheel. When I show up to events or soccer games or business meetings or whatever, there's this restlessness and this hopelessness that what I'm doing today isn't enough. What I'm doing today doesn't matter or won't matter. And so, I hope other people get into Bitcoin so that they can understand those qualities, man. That's the good stuff. That's what we're after. It's not just number go up. It's the freedom go up that comes along with it that I really hope people get.
So true. So beautifully said. And it's, people don't want money. They want what money can get them, and that's exactly what you just outlined. They want the freedom. They want to find their calling, their passion, whatever it is, spend time with family, with loved ones. And you and I have talked more.
Fortunately for the United States, I feel like God has just blessed the United States with so many advantages from a geographical perspective, from being surrounded by multiple oceans, from being connected to not only Canada, maybe not all of Canada, maybe just Alberta. We'll see if they're going to cede or not. But to Mexico and Central America and South America, from temperance to geography to how the wind blows, there's just like so many advantages that America has that other geographies don't. Mm-hmm. But if you do combine Chinese technology, capability, resourcefulness with the natural resources of Russia and the population and capability and talent in India, I feel like the world could shift over the next 20 to 30 years. Bible, like God condones this stuff. No, God doesn't condone wars. God does not condone, what happens when there's bad leadership and bad character. But we see it over and over again. That's what happens. It's a recounting and retelling of what always happens when we humans get in positions of power. We crave it, we create destruction, and that ends in war. I don't think that we're going to get out of that cycle. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to save us from ourselves.
Do you think that it's just a quick thought on, do you think it's a function going
in the distance, don't know who's the fool and who's right? And so they're both idiots. And so there's an element of me just like staying out of it because I don't know if I'm going to be the fool or the wise person. And so, but even within ourselves and in the Bitcoin network, you can see how pretentious and how visceral we can become and how quickly we can be divided on insignificant or significant topics.
Well said. Very well said. Do you think that, like we saw FTX blow themselves up, we saw Terra Luna, we saw all these other entities over the years, many over the years, to blow themselves up because they're selling paper Bitcoin and they're trying to play these legacy games. How does Bitcoin change that going forward? I mean, at what point maybe
to show me at that level and at these volumes and at this run rate moving forward, who's selling all of this Bitcoin?
I couldn't agree more. What's the most interesting? So you did a video the other day about Saylor. The MicroStrategy Bitcoin warning is now spreading to really the rest of the world, and it's an awesome video. And we'll link to stuff obviously in the show notes so people can check it out. But what's in saying that, I'd love for you to touch on that, and maybe it is your most interesting story in the world right now. So what is the most interesting thing in Bitcoin or just the world? Because those two worlds are really merging. Geopolitics and just legacy finance now converging with Bitcoin. We're at that point in the story. What's the most interesting thing going on right now? And maybe it is the MicroStrategy playbook spreading.
Yeah, Bitcoin is the asset. They're recognizing that it's not only an avenue for newer customers, it's not only an avenue for a newer market, it's an avenue to increase the multiple and the exit liquidity that you have on the story and the brand of your company. Like, that's more important than anything. With Bitcoin, they're tapping into a global brand. They're tapping into a global asset class that, if you have that, access to public markets, I can buy your ticker from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Metaplanet is the best performing stock in the Japanese market. Alex Lizette, our buddy in France, best performing stock on the French stock market, right? And it's like, this was a company that was literally dead. Let me go get insurance companies to buy our bonds and our preferred, convertible notes, because those are the best performing assets in the markets as well, too, right now. So that's probably the biggest story, and that's why it's the biggest story.
Brilliantly said. It feels like Silicon Valley and Wall Street, it's still at this juncture, we're being ignored in essence. I say we, I shouldn't say it like that, but like Bitcoin is being ignored still to a large extent. And I did, like, at what point did they give in? Like you said, all these companies, best performing company, they're being added to the S&P, they're being added to the new NASDAQ, whatever, all these things. It's like, at what point does someone wake up and be like, you know what? I think we should take this Bitcoin thing seriously. It still feels like we're like, I mean, it's in our face every day because we're in the Bitcoin space.
You cannot price the new system in the existing system. One, the denominator of the existing system, because we live in a fiat world, will continue to get bigger. We keep using this 900 trillion number. Honestly, in 10 years, 900 trillion is going to be, what is that? What's after a trillion?
Quadrillion.
Quadrillion?
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be 1.4 quadrillion, right?
Yep.
So one, the denominator is still going to get bigger. But two, of the asset classes that it eats, it's going to be exponentially bigger. So people talk about Bitcoin at 20 to 8%, I don't know, it's between 7 and 9%, dividend yield on the low end, but they can also partake in the upward end of Bitcoin. So when you look at what people in retirement actually need, it's to not have those massive drawdowns. Like, the first 10 years of your retirement are the most important, right? It's like that lost generation, they say, that retired in 2000 to like 2008, that pretty much they drew down on their portfolio with no places to get return. And then after that, you're just trying to live off a smaller and smaller base. And so I think that's a really interesting thing, is that people can get a fixed return that outperforms the market, the free market rate of return, and they can also capture the upside of Bitcoin. That's really interesting. I think the next most interesting thing that Michael Saylor is doing is he's helping people to understand, fascinated that he's doing it with Bitcoin, But honestly, you can take this playbook to anything when you're trying to think about how do I win friends and influence people.
So well said. And I love that you use, like you said, Jesus, we always use parables, right? I mean, there's always stories and parables, and it was reframing. Because as we know, I mean, I'm not the greatest question asker in the world, but most humans, like, we ask the wrong questions. And my father-in-law is famous for saying that all the time. He's an attorney, and he always, like, someone to do something like, wrong question. Like, that's the wrong question. You asked the wrong question, and it's like, do you want the right response? Because you're not asking the right question. And that's what us Bitcoiners are doing a lot of time, where Sailor's getting this question and he's like, that's not what you mean, or it's not what you're trying to say. So I'm going to go over here with it and reframe it. So I love you said that. I would love for you to get your thoughts on what Jack Ma to that.
The number one bill that needs to be passed in terms of Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption at the state level is Bitcoin being counted as a like-kind asset, like real estate. So anyone who's ever been in real estate, there's this method, I believe it's called the 1031 exchange, right? Where if you sell an asset or a piece of real estate within 180 days, if you transfer that asset into another asset, you don't have to pay any capital gains. And this is what happens in real estate. One, you get 30x leverage, right? You get put to, a few percent down. The bank will give you all of this money out of thin air. And then once you have gotten equity in that property, well, the idea is that you would never sell it, right? That's the famous treat it like a like-kind asset, where real estate investments can flow into Bitcoin, or I can sell Bitcoin and buy physical property back in the real world is going to be an unlock.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Do you think that's really, like, do you think the capital gains part of that just itself, like, to me, it's something I've thought about a lot over the years, of just like, I would love to use this even more, but it's, capital gains, and it's just like tracking things, whatever. Do you think just that alone is a huge unlock? Because people, it's always like, well, I'm sure you see it all the time. You're like on YouTube comments or whatever it is. It's like, well, can I buy, something in a grocery store with it? Ha ha ha. And it's like, yeah, of course it's hard right now. It's harder because we have capital gains. What happens when that's unlocked? I mean, is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, everyone tries to like poo-poo on Square a lot. Mm-hmm. One, they've had this lightning ability in their back pocket for years. Literally, I think in 3 months, if there was
like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the video.